Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Broken Theory. Today we got the homie Mickey FACTZ. What's good?
Smicky, what's going on, brother? How you feeling, man?
Blessed, highly favored, man. I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule, you know what I'm saying, to sit with us, talk about this journey, man, and how you first got started.
Yes, sir.
How did you first get into music, bro?
Man, that's a great question. I feel like it can go in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my father rapped to me in the womb, so is that the answer? Growing up in church where music is playing super loud all the time, is that the answer? Hearing Big Daddy Kane on a vinyl, then making him sound like a chipmunk, is that the answer? I don't know. I feel like it's just a couple things that just kind of kept happening.
Yeah.
For me to kind of, dive into this space as a professional, being, and I'm still a fan of, different artists and just the art of it all. But I think also just kind of having this thought process of, being hit constantly with this thought process of just creating, and seeing what that looks like. And
Yeah.
grateful that I was able to kind of make that happen.
Word. Absolutely. So as far as like when you started making your own music, how do you feel like you started to develop your own sound? I mean, for you, you've always carried the torch for lyricism and things like that. How did you start to kind of develop your artistry like that?
I think, and I can't speak for a lot of artists, but for me, I didn't really get noticed until 2006. And by that point, I was 24. So I wrote my first song and recorded it at 26. At 16. So, I'm looking at 8 years. So in this 8 years, there's a lot of growing. I mimicked a lot. I tried to mimic Jay. I tried to mimic Graf. I tried to mimic Joe Budden. I tried to mimic, who else? 50 Cent with the choruses. Maybe a little bit of Cassidy here and there, but like a lot of it was mimicking and trying to find myself. And not until Common's B came out is when I tried to mimic Ye, at one point, but like B was the album that made me kind of take a step back, and I saw that. I think the first portion of it is Ye was himself, and I was like, oh, you can be yourself and do this, but I still want to talk crazy. But then when Common did B with the soul samples, the singing, the content, the lyricism, and he was being himself. There wasn't no violence. I said, okay, I'm going to change my name from what it was before, change my entire style to just kind of reflect who I am as a person and move forward. So really, 2005 was that's when the light bulb kind of went off, and I was like, I'm going to be myself as opposed to trying to emulate styles. Got you.
What was your name prior?
Name prior was Renegade.
Okay.
Yeah, I was calling myself Renegade. It was easier to kind of make rhymes out of, so that's why I was calling myself that.
Nah, I got you. Sometimes you just got to take the hard way, right?
Yeah. So then, I changed it to Mickey FACTZ after a while.
Absolutely. So you've taught courses, you educated artists. What kind of got you into that space and kind of showed you that you have a love for sharing the craft with other individuals and other artists, to make them better?
For me, it was really just kind of looking at the landscape of hip hop and how can I add to it as opposed to complaining about it. I see a lot of people complaining but not really doing any action behind it, and I felt like maybe I could kind of change that around and be a difference and do something that's never been done before. Typically, that's the type of styles that I kind of like to move in. So I was like, man, nobody's ever made a school, so why don't I just kind of create a school? Call it Pendulum Inc. with my guy Chilla Jones, and we're on our 4th year now. it's a very successful business. I'm very, proud of it. But I also just kind of thought to myself, what happens when you're done rapping?
Yeah.
I haven't had a job since 2007, so like I don't really know. Yeah, I've been thinking to myself, what's next? And I felt like this was the next pivot.
The next chapter.
Move into the education space.
Absolutely.
But I'm still making music. But I think that this is the next pivot for me.
Nah, that's dope. That's real dope. And I've seen other artists like Lupe start kind of like getting into that space, teaching and stuff like that. What would you say?
Lupe was the first.
Lupe was the first? Okay. What would you say is the biggest myth about the industry that most artists believes that they shouldn't?
I think the biggest myth in the industry is you need a record deal to be successful, or that you need public mainstream validation to be successful.
Absolutely.
That's been something that's just been resting on my spirit for the past 2 to 3 years. I want to say from 2015 to about maybe 2018, I was dealing with this internal struggle of being in the conversation with other lyricists, and not being, just trying to carve my name in that space. And I think I did enough to kind of get that recognition.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now, the past 2 to 3 years, I've been just seeing so many of the fans, and a lot of them on Twitter, just saying like, if you're not successful if you're not selling out a stadium. You're not successful if you're not going on a 30 to 40 city tour, and it's 5,000 people in the room. Like, that's not the reality for a lot of artists. And I think that a lot of it is a myth, because if you're on a label, you're supposed to be big. But I feel like that's like that's like the answer that I have in terms of like what's a myth and what a misconception about.
No, I feel it. I mean, it goes down to what the artist wants, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't really like being around like a whole bunch of people and moving around a whole lot, and you got a family going on and things like that, like your life isn't really set up to tour, and versus somebody that has no kids and things like that, it just goes down to like how you set your life up and what you want, right. How are some of the ways that you stay grounded in moments like that, to where it's like the fans have unrealistic expectations for you and you have your own expectations for yourself?
I mean, I think it's beautiful that fans have unrealistic expectations for us, because I think artists do too when they first start out. But then, things as life progresses, and there's always something new, when you're the new artist that's out, there's so much attention on you, but then there's always going to be somebody else that's newer. And I feel like that kind of tapers off expectations for the artist a little bit. And then at some point, the fans kind of follow suit, but they're still championing for people to kind of appreciate the artist. You know what I'm saying? And I've been feeling that way a little bit on my YouTube channel. A lot of my fans are like, man, Mickey's so good. And some of them that's not subscribed, they just pull up and like, yeah, I remember Mick, and I think that to me that's enough. Like I don't feel like, these expectations, as long as we're alive, as long as we're providing art, and as long as we're not in a bad mental space, you're doing your job. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's what it's about.
Absolutely. What's a moment in your career to where you almost quit but didn't, and what pulled you back into it?
December 15th, 2013. I had $4.14 in my bank account after having like 90 grand earlier in the year. Just kind of blowing through that in a year's time. When I just realized that all my money was gone, I was like, man, what am I gonna do? And I didn't really have an answer for that. I didn't have an answer. And so I quit. I legitimately quit music. And for 4 months, I tried to get a job. I tried to get a job for 4 months. I did my very best. I had a couple shows lined up. and obligations lined up.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried to get a job in 2013. But at that time, I hadn't worked for 6 years.
Yeah.
So it was tough to get something, you know, that was at least respectful.
Mm-hmm.
And when I couldn't get that, I had to come back to do music. I had to come back. I had bills to pay.
Yep.
And I realized that, like, I can't, being told what to do at this stage in the game. I'm approaching my 20th year next year.
Mm-hmm.
Being told what to do as an artist, you know, I just feel like it'll be, I don't want to say mundane, but like it'll just be very tough. Like
Yeah.
I feel like even if I stop making music or I don't get a 9-to-5, I'll probably do something that's free flowing, like consulting or driving trucks or something like that. Like I can't see myself answering to a boss. I've been a boss for 18, 19 years already.
Yeah, nah, as you should. What do you feel like personally is your definition of success?
Man, being able to sustain myself off of the things that I create with my mind. I mean, to me, that's success. Having a family to love, having support system, creating art that people can appreciate throughout the world. I think that's success. I mean, everybody's version of it is different. I don't need to sell out stadiums. I've let go of that dream. I'm okay with just 500 people in a room. I'm okay with that.
Yep. I mean, most people can't get 2 people in a room, so you know that's a big accomplishment at all. If you had to build a Mount Rushmore of lyricists, who would you pick?
Lupe, Black Thought, Elzai, Nas.
Nah, that's fire. You referenced Basquiat a lot. What's your relationship with the art realm, and how do you kind of like compare that to your artistry?
I love art. I think art is just, it's fascinating. You can get so many different interpretations by looking at it, and I kind of feel like the same way with my lyricism. So, you know, I've referenced different kinds of artists and different kinds of art motifs and all kind of different things, and I've been able to kind of sustain a very beautiful presentation of what that looks like from a musical standpoint. I feel like I got some other stuff on the way in terms of like that, you know. So I'm excited to see what people think of that when it's time.
That's dope. That's real dope. What would you say is a lesson about either branding or business that you learned during your come up era that someone probably taught you?
The most important thing about branding is for people to, if you're an artist, and we'll get into like actual like entities later, but like as an artist, you have to create an image that would make somebody want to dress up like you on Halloween.
That's crazy. And who told you that piece of advice?
Oh man, I heard that, like, I forgot who told me that. This was like in 2007, 2008. And then that's when I said, okay, I gotta create an outfit. Skinny jeans, glasses, Supras, you know what I'm saying? Something ridiculous on my outfit, on my torso. And that for a while was me. People were dressing like me for a very long time. And dressing up as me on Halloween. Like, so I was able to kind of successfully do that. And then obviously people took that and ran with it. So you got like the Nicki Minaj's of the world, Jay-Z's, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a brand. So in terms of entities, you have to drill your entity into the public perception into the point where they can recognize your logo. If an alien came to America and said, I'm hungry, and the person said, you should go to McDonald's, the alien says, well, what is McDonald's? What does the logo look like? You're supposed to know what that logo looks like. You're supposed to know what they sell. You're supposed to know what their slogan is and the things that they offer. And to me, that's what branding is. Public perception and awareness.
Okay. All right, for sure. Has there been any books that have helped you along your journey? And which ones would you recommend for artists on the come up?
I mean, I read Decoded by Jay. It was pretty good. I read the Don't Sweat the Technique joint by Breauxkin. I have that book in the crib. But really, you know, I'm an autobiography guy. Autobiographies are amazing. I'm sorry, because like you get a chance to see the mistakes. You get a chance to see the successes. You get a chance to see how perseverance plays out. So some of my favorite ones is Dr. Seuss, Steve Jobs, Johnny Cochran has a really good one that had me just like entranced. Yeah, I mean, those are really like I'm an auto bio guy, you know, and if I'm able to kind of, obviously the Malcolm X one is probably one of the top 5 auto bios ever.
Definitely.
Right. But I strongly believe that as artists and creatives, that autobiographies are the way to go. You want to dodge the mistakes other people have made and take the life lessons and move on with that.
Word. How do you deal with creative block? And what are some of the lessons that you've learned to kind of avoid that?
So there's a couple, right? Like, so as in terms of writing, I don't believe in writer's block. I believe that there's 1.1 million words in the English language, and we probably use about 10% of that, if that. You know, maybe 1%, if I'm being honest, on a day-to-day basis. Anywhere between 10,000 to 50,000 words potential.
Yeah.
Right. And we need to read more, you know, from a writing standpoint. Like I've gotten to the point now where I just write from a conversational standpoint. And then when I get to the point where I need to rhyme, I'll work a little bit backwards to finesse it to make it fit in that space. That way there's no room for filler. Outside of just from a creative standpoint of writing, just creating in general, I just think life, when you get to a certain age, I'm 42, I'll be 43 in 3 weeks. When you get to a certain age, you start appreciating life so much more. You start to see different things and you start to want to create out of what you see. And I feel that for me, I've been looking at things a little bit differently. I just finished writing a new album. It took me about 10 days to write, which is a very long time for me. I usually can write a project in 4 days or less, right? Okay. But I recorded the whole project in a day. But the interesting thing about this project, I had got these beats, the beats for this project. I finished it this week. So I finished, I finished it Friday. So I started writing 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday. I finished it this Friday that just passed. I recorded it on Sunday, which would mean that I finished on the 20th. I started, and this is all in June. I started writing on the 11th of June. I probably got those beats right before Memorial Day. And when I got the beats and I finally chose some beats, you know, I had to live with them. You know, and when I say live with them, what comes with that is actually being one and having intimate, I don't want to say conversations, but like being intentional with what you want to talk about. And not just proving that you're better than somebody lyrically. Like I got into the space where it's like, yo, man, I want to talk about anxiety. I want to talk about accountability. I want to talk about mortality. I want to talk about grief. I want to talk about celebration. And I just started, and I did that at this particular age. And I loved it. I loved every moment of it. And I think that's the beauty of, and you know, some of this stuff is 3 verses too, so that's a good thing.
Word. That's dope. That's dope. Well, hey man, I really appreciate you taking some time, you know what I'm saying, to speak with us, give us some game. God bless, man, for real, for real. And I can't wait to listen to the new album, man, for real.
Long live lyricism. Pendulum Inc. Sign up for Pendulum Inc. This album that I just finished writing is called Standing Room at the Blue Note. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's called. Standing Room in the Blue Note. You know. So yeah. Y'all
How many tracks? How many tracks and when can we expect it?
Right now it's looking like 9 tracks, maybe 10, depending on how I feel in terms of an outro.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all can expect that later in the year. I'm still trying to put this One Above All album out like next month. We'll see
Okay.
how that goes.
For sure, man. All right, man. God bless, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Peace.
brother. Yes, sir.